Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Benelli. This is Robyn Benelli, my daughter, in the Reiki Lifestyle podcast. So we are actually recording an intro right now because when we started this podcast, it's our Q&A that we do every month, and people join us live and we just talk about Reiki topics wherever it takes us. So today, I just returned from teaching Reiki on Mount Karuna in Japan. And several of the students, one was still there on the mountain and one is home. And so we immediately started talking and realized we should just start the recording. So that's what happens next. And I do explain it a little bit, but we're talking about our class on Mount Karuna in Japan. And that was a Karuna masterclass and a masterclass that I was teaching with William Rand. So anyway, that's where we start the conversation.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Robyn.
I just wanted to say hi because for those that are listening, I don't think that I talked a whole lot in the beginning because you were talking with people that were there. So anyway, I just wanted to say hi to everybody and welcome to our Q&A episode that we do monthly. You are welcome to join live if you have a Reiki question. We do take them by email, but a lot of times we just end up having so many live questions that we don't always get to the ones that were emailed into us. So just to let you know that you can sign up for our podcast list, and that gives you the Zoom link. So if you do have any burning Reiki questions and they're about all different subjects, you can always come live to ask those. Also, you don't even have to be heard. So there's ways to keep you anonymous if you'd like to come and ask a question, but you don't feel comfortable being on, the podcast, all of those kinds of things. You're welcome to come and do that too.
So again, the Reiki Lifestyle podcast, and you can also find us on YouTube with a lot more content. Guided meditations and Reiki journeys and information.
Those are actually released onto the podcast as well. They get those on Thursdays. So
okay.
Ones, yeah, but there are visuals that are put onto YouTube.
So we want to invite you also to our distance Reiki share. Those are Tuesday mornings, Pacific time. And we also teach Reiki classes. And I have upcoming classes starting on May 3rd, I think, 4th and 5th, and then classes 6th and 7th. You can look at our calendar, ReikiLifestyle.com. Robyn, Sue Strong, and I also teach an Animal Reiki class in May, Animal Reiki 1 and 2, and Animal Reiki Master. So lots going on. And then a Karuna class in June, master class. And those are all online.
Thanks, everyone. So we hope you enjoy the episode.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thought it was amazing how well everyone just stayed in the Reiki energy, and we were able to be in that stability and the kindness and the peacefulness of the mountain. You agree too, Caroline?
Oh my gosh, yes. And then the water, that constant sound of the water, that little river.
Yeah.
I loved that. But the first day I got up on the mountain, I had so much energy coming up through my legs that my knees were shaking.
Right.
Well, that little river right now is overflowing because it has rained for the last 3 days, and it's still raining. We're supposed to have some sun today, and who knows when the sun rises. But as I came down off the mountain each day, I've been watching the water. And when I take the train, the Azon line up to the mountain, we cross over a couple of times, and it's like, oh yeah, and it's so much fun to play the Reiki Birthplace business book. She has Reiki energy games at the end of the book, And one of them is to put your hand over the water as it's flowing down. And because there's so many different examples of the water in my time here, from like trickles to gushing, it's been, the last few days has just been remarkable, the energy coming off, and that it has risen so high. And I've begun to notice a number of the places have watermark lines. Like there are boulders that have been scored that have watermark lines in there. And so I've just been observing that, like how much is coming from the top. And then when I get down to the train station, and then as I'm riding the train back down, because of course, the lower we travel, the more water has accumulated. So it's phenomenal. And those, the energy that comes off of it is just exhilarating. So I really get what you were sharing, Caroline, about, you know, your legs and the weakness and listening to the water. Because of course, living on an island, listening to the ocean all the time, it's like, can we crack the window? I just need to hear the ebb and flow. I need that just to hear the energy. I know it's there, but I'd like to hear it.
It's true. Living in Oregon, of course, we have the rain and the sound of water a lot, kind of everywhere. So it's really true. I was talking about it yesterday in the distance Reiki share too, and one of the things in kind of re-entry back here, and that's something for you, Em, because you are so connected to the water where you live, and now connecting into the water on the mountain. Yesterday, I was talking about one of the things I do for re-entry from travel in wherever I go is connect in with that groundwater. And we're so much more affected by the currents underneath us than we realize. And they are specific currents of water underneath us. And so you'll find that it will help you orient to where you are if you just take those moments to connect in with that water underneath you. And so I love that you're getting to experience that there too. And wow.
Thank you, Colleen. A whole bunch of stuff happened in the last 48 hours here on the mountain for me. There were other things that happened as well involving other people, but for myself, and yesterday
before you share this, let
Yes,
me
ma'am.
catch up. Let me catch up the listeners, because people may not have connected in with. This was from the class in Japan on Mount Karama that we recently had. Em is actually still there on Mount Karama, which is the place where Yusui Sensei received Reiki. And so it's a sacred mountain that, you know, since the 8th century has been a place of sacred ground and pilgrimage and practices. So Em is still there. I got home last Saturday, a couple of days, that'll be a week ago by the time this posts. Caroline has been home for almost 2 weeks. And so we're still in the energy of it. And Em is literally in the energy of it. And it's 3 a.m. where you are? 2:30?
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, yeah. So she's joining us from Japan, and she is talking about now, I think you're going to be talking about an experience you've had on the mountain with the temple that is there, the main temple.
Well, yes, and you know, a lot has opened up in the 48 hours, the last 48 hours. It's really nice to be on the mountain when there are so few people there, because it's just been pouring down rain for the last 2 days, and there's more to come. And the mountain is in transition because Japan has a week-long celebration called Golden Week, in which a number of events occur, and each one is its own celebration, beginning with the Constitution Day, and that begins Saturday. And yesterday, because for me it's your day, being 13 hours ahead, for me it's yesterday. When I was there, I was meditating and I received a very specific image that as soon as I return to the island, I know exactly where my bathing suit is and all my swim gear, and I am to drop everything and say, excuse me, I'm going swimming, because I land about 1100 and it'll take me 3 to 4 hours to get back to the island, which means it'll be about 1500, which is a perfect time of day regardless of the weather. And I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that after traveling over 24 hours and all this stuff. But you're right, Colleen. Being connected to the ebb and flow of those currents, wherever they are, however they are, is very accurate, and being present with it. And then more so for myself, and this is only for me, I'm not saying this for anyone else, because I am so tied and connected with, especially now more because of Colleen and Robyn's Animal Reiki and Animal Reiki masterclasses, so tied to the Tree of Life realm. I feel those energies in a very profound way. And there are times where it's just like, excuse me, I have to go swimming regardless, pardon me. And for me, being on the mountain, this is the longest time I have not been in water, in a body of open water, swimming. Yes, there are hot springs there, and that was absolutely an exquisite way to start and end the day. And that's different than, climbing into a creek, climbing into an ocean, and just spending time in the water for me. I'm not recommending this for anybody else because I don't know your swimming skill levels, but I have grown up in the water and am a very accomplished swimmer and have done rescue swimming. So I do want to quantify and qualify that. So, and, there were days where I would just look down at the creek, and I even asked Colleen, I brought a bathing suit. Can I just go down there and sit on the rocks and be under the water? And I was like, yeah, let's not have an international incident.
Well, go ahead and share or ask what you were going to talk about. And Caroline, do you have anything that you want to share or add? You said you guys had a really good time in Kyoto.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that keeps coming into my mind, and it has been since I was there, since I felt the peace of being there and the peace of the mountain and the peace of the water and the peace of the ignitions and the placements. I just keep hearing the words in my mind, you're retired. And it's telling me that I'm retired from maybe a state of consciousness that I was in before I got there, and kind of like mentally retired. I get to retire that old part of myself or that unpeaceful part of myself. So, when you talk about reintegrating into the world here, it was almost just kind of like floating home. None of the things that normally would have bothered me. And, it was unusual circumstances, but, I came home, and usually when I come home from a trip like that, I get depressed, and I did not feel that way. I just kept on hearing mentally, well, you're retired from that old, that old programming or that old state of unpeacefulness.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. And every time I've gone to the mountain, that's what I feel.
And I would definitely want to go back again next year if y'all offered it and just do the same exact thing I did.
Great. Yes, we're talking about it. We don't have dates or anything, but we'll definitely do something in 2024. But have to figure out dates and all of that. So it would be a ways off. A ways off before we announce timing. Yeah, it's I like Japan in general. I like just the culture, the architecture, the vibe, I guess, is it feels so comfortable everywhere. And with Google Maps and Google Translate, I'm amazed at how efficient those are for travel at this level. All the trains, like how to get where you're going, it's all on Google Maps, like super easy. And they're so efficient there anyway that travel is very doable. And then of course, all the shrines, the people are friendly. It's just a nice place. It's a nice place to be.
Yeah, between me, Anne, and Lisa, we bought a dozen kimonos.
Really?
We went on a kimono splurge while we were there, but that was all part of the experience. I loved it.
That's great. Did you guys end up doing any of that up on the Philosopher's Path? That's where I bought a kimono, there's an antique kimono shop. And the Philosopher's Path is in Kyoto and was probably my favorite location in the city. Just really gentle walkways along a canal. And of course, it was cherry blossom week. So the trees are cherry blossoms over the canal. And there are temples and shrines all along it. And it's probably, maybe 4 miles, maybe a little bit longer. You can go as long or as short as you want. But really just a neat place to stroll. So that's where I got I got a kimono for my granddaughter, an antique kimono.
Oh, beautiful.
So you got a bunch of them?
I got 3.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I got a long one. They were all one of a kind too, which was really neat. I got a long one and then I got 2 short ones.
Well, I can't wait to show all the photos. There's also the kimono forest on one of the lines. I can't remember. Going on the way to Arashiyama and to the monkey park. So my grandson said the most important thing for you to do is to go to the monkey park. And so I did, and it was as big a climb as going up Mount Karuna to go to the top and hang out with a bunch of monkeys. So I have good photos of that too. But anyway, they have a kimono forest. And so they have all these kimonos with different patterns in tubes along the forest so that you get to see the different prints and colors. And yeah, it was really cool. Well, Em, you had some specific questions today too, right? Did you still want to ask your question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So as I shared, a lot has opened up in the last 48 hours. And, as Caroline and Colleen know, there is a woman who goes up and down the mountain with a conch shell. And when I first encountered her, I thought she was not Japanese and was just visiting because I recognized the style of the conch shell that she was utilizing as one from the Philippines. Be that as it may. There are lots of wonderful places on the mountain to spend time. And because I'm here on an extended amount of time, I am really exploring all of them. And underneath the main temple, and I don't know, I haven't looked up what this place is actually called. I would use the word catacombs or an underground basement, because I've noticed people store things, some things for the temple are stored there. But the three main deities, it's a catacomb walkway kind of space. And I go down there and do the holy fire meditation that is in the Karuna Reiki Master Manual, because there are typically, and not always, a minimum of 3 candles down there, which is a great place to do it. And Colleen has often shared, as has Robyn, that in invocations, when we are doing our Reiki practice, at a certain point, we're asked to bring our energy in really, really close. And one of my doctors who is a practicing Qigong master, similar, not the same, has constantly told me I need to expand my energy or auric field. And so I'm looking for clarification on that distinction. He says to expand it for protection. As an untrained empath, I pick up so much. And when I was in the catacombs, I got present to her higher consciousness, pun intended, as I call her, the lady. I realized that she was the person that I was encountering down in the catacombs, because it's so dark and I'm so focused on the meditation. Many times I'm not aware until later. And I experienced something which is not mine, which was this profound, overwhelming, deep sadness. And all of a sudden I heard Colleen's voice, pull it in close. And, I'm down there doing the meditation and I put my hands on it and it quickly abated. But I didn't know who the person was because it was so poorly lit and my focus was elsewhere. So I'm looking to understand, do we pull our energy in close and keep it there, or do we expand for protection? Any guidance you can give me, because I realize there are 2 different practices and I'm here to learn. So thank you very much.
Okay, that's a great question. I would say that you could receive a lot of different answers to that question, depending on people's perspective, how they do their work, and their definition of the techniques they're using. So I think of it as both things can happen even simultaneously. When we consider Reiki as the energy field that we place around us, it's actually that filter. So if an external lower frequency is coming towards you, it filters it, and it filters it with light. So that's a big distinction right there, understanding what is the energy of that filter. It's higher consciousness and it's illuminating. So as a lower energy comes in, it illuminates in the higher energy. It's, like you say, that candle that illuminates that very dark place. So I think of it as I keep my energy within that field. So I'll drop the field of Reiki around me. Now, the question people always want to know is, what's the how-to? The how-to is as simple as thinking it in the moment. So for instance, when you were in that moment, I would just be like, okay, Reiki around me, which you probably already had done and everything, which is why you were receiving guidance around it. So while I'm in that field, I actually can expand my auric field and still be close into myself. So when we talk about bringing your energy in close to you, a lot of the training around that is the awareness of how many of us that are in these fields are empathic. And we can expand our aura a long way and end up expanding that into other energy fields. So to me, it's bring it in close, have your container, your own personal self and your energy in with you. The field around you allows you to expand and also come back in, and you always have that filter. So another way that you can do that filter, and it depends on the techniques that you want to use or have time for in the moment, or however it shows up. A lot of times you're just guided to create that field, but that's when you picture the preparations before a session, for instance, like placing the symbols in your hands or in your breath or your eyes, and then placing the energy around you. Now you can do that by drawing symbols. If you're not in a place, you can draw the symbols, you can intend it, you can use your eyes and, go around and place the energy around you that way. And it's a little bit different than a shield. So let's also talk about why out of all of those different techniques that I have learned to protect my energy, we'll call it that, the reason I like the way Reiki energy creates that filter around you, is because of the energy itself. The energy itself is an illuminating, healing energy. So as things come in, or even if things are coming from me as they go out, that filter, it's the quality of the energy that the filter is. So if something that's a lesser energy is coming through, it can either go the other way if it doesn't want to have that illumination. And the energy is always about healing and empowerment. So for both you, but also for the energies that end up in that filter. So that's why I like it, how you're defining, if you're expanding your auric field. We did Karuna Reiki and you were there for that. Well, that I always see that energy of hearth, and the way that symbol looks, it looks like, you're now in this pyramid over you, and there's an expansion that you can be in that field and expand as big as you are. And one of the reasons I think people also in our fields can be concerned about that level of expansion or brightness is visibility. Like, we feel like, boy, if we, really expand ourselves, do we become more physical or visible? And also the empathy issue, connecting in with all the feelings that are everywhere, the different experiences. So from what you said, you did what you do. And, you want to be able to experience those experiences without a fear of a lower vibration energy, attaching or whatever it is that the experiences we can have. And it's not even to say that what you experienced was lower frequency, other than the way you define it, was that sadness, profound sadness came in. So somewhere, that energy was coming in. So, the expansion of your aura is totally a term that makes sense and the way some people would define their practice of how they're taking care of their own energy field. I always take care of my own energy field. And that's one thing, because I'm so empathic. It's one of the skills that I've learned, like take care of my energy field wherever I am, even when I'm in that really high frequency and on the mountain, that sacred energy that we are, I still have my energy. I'm always conscious of it, but not through fear. It's really empowerment. It's like this sense of, there's this really beautiful energy that is, I'm seeing through it, and it's also coming back this way. So it's a really nice field of energy.
Thank you.
The other
I'm so sorry, Robyn.
Yeah, that's okay. The other thing I would just say is many times in the invocations and things like that, where we're saying, bring your energy in close, we are also coming in from our lives, and there can be a lot of busyness before that. And so with Qigong, you're doing that process through movement and bringing that scattered energy in. And so that's another piece of it, is that it also helps you bring you into center. It also brings you into that kind of mindfulness practice where you are right here in the moment in presence. And so it's that idea of also with that empathy that, you might be kind of having that energy really far out, but also maybe just in your busyness of your life, that you have to take that moment to bring yourself into the right here and right now and into presence. So it's another piece of why we say that very often. I know for me, like I'm a parent and I have all the parent things going on in the busy household with animals, and I work from home. And so, different times before we come to either meetings or classes or, things like that it can really cause me to be kind of all over the place. And so just taking that moment to kind of bring yourself in and into that centered space is also an important piece of the Reiki work, which is a different kind of part of Qigong and how they do that piece of it. Because we're not practicing it in the same way that they do it there, we still want to have that similar practice of bringing us in, that similar idea of bringing us in, and how we can use the Reiki energy to do that.
Thank you both. That's hugely helpful, because I was collapsing everything into one energetic field. And what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm not fully getting it, because I'm very young at this, is, there's almost two containers, one for myself, and then the second one is, at a greater distance, and that creates a filtering process of love and light that helps me keep the closer energy field protected and secure without being impacted as greatly as I have in the past.
I think that's accurate. The same thing as everybody will have their own way that it comes through to make sense for them. And so however that works for you, I think the bigger takeaway with all of it is realizing that the Reiki energy is a great field of energy to awaken your perceptions that you're connected with. And so there's lots of techniques to do that. So speaking of Qigong, that's that moving meditation you can do. But of course, you're talking about on the fly in the moment. where you are in a circumstance of listening and hearing and experiencing and feeling. So how you, how you take care of yourself. And also because there are plenty of times that, I forget to do my practices before I get where I'm going and need it. So that's the on the fly part. It's like, oh yeah, And by the way, remember we have the distance symbol. So if you remember to bring in Reiki after the fact, you can still send Reiki back to yourself before everything. So you can go back to that and then let it come through. And that's an interesting experience too. I've done that plenty of times. You get where you're going and just for whatever reason, lose track of taking care of your energy field, and all of a sudden you're in it. You're going, oh, okay.
Exactly. And, that's been the beauty of being here for the extended time. And because I'm not on a schedule intentionally, so, I don't have any technology with me when I'm on the mountain. Often, and not always because of the timing, it takes me approximately 2 hours to arrive at the mountain. And in that time, even though I have my morning meditation where I'm all of a sudden it's like I hear the monkey mind chatter and it's like, oh, I'm awake. Okay, gasho, let's begin. And, before I'm going to bed, it's like, okay, I got some monkey mind chatter. I need to go to sleep. Gasho, hands on, let's go to sleep. But that the train ride up and back is the time that I spend doing, like actively practicing Reiki, just the way that you described. And I read this in the AMA journal, the American Medical Association journal. They were working with athletes who were scanning their brains of them performing whatever sport it is that they do. And they noticed that even though they're laying in an MRI or a CT scan, I forget which one it was, and they're asking them to run the race or perform whatever sport it is in their head while they're lying completely still, their brains demonstrated that it looked as if they were full on in whatever the competition was. Their brain was actively firing, like they were moving their hands, moving their legs, and they weren't. So, when I'm in public and I do Reiki on, I do that in my brain. And for me, the way I learned, it was really impactful to be physically present when we did the Reiki Master course, because I got to really see and be and feel in the energy, because the images, I was in an accident and I sustained a traumatic brain injury. So sometimes I don't learn the way I used to. And it was really impactful to be in the course with you because I got to physically see and be it and experience it. And then I went up on the mountain and I did the moving meditation. But there are many times where in my head, I'm distracted by Danny's visitor.
And the cat. I saw it too.
I know. Me and animal Reiki. So I apologize. So I do the moving meditation in my head. And as I have spent more time being a Reiki practitioner, I can feel those neurons firing. I can, it's just like I really have to be mindful because I'm on the train up to the mountain, and it's like, yeah, I can't be waving my arms around, especially if it happens to be rush hour with all the school children and the people going to and from work. And I can feel that. And it's just like, wow, that moving meditation has provided so much. So there is a lot of science behind what you think and how the brain responds to it. And I was really tickled when I came across that report in the AMA journal that gave the empirical data behind that. And I was like, oh, there's definitely something to this.
Well, and I think the other piece of it is the awareness that we are activating our inner awareness to the Reiki energy. It's already there. And so what our practices do is activate that inner awareness and consciousness and, regular daily consciousness to the Reiki energy. And Taylor says Reiki puts us in theta and gamma brain waves in waking time. Yeah, in our daily lives. Well, thank you for that question. That was a great question, Em. And I think that's it's one of the big ones that people have, and protection. And there's lots of different techniques that people use to take care of their energy field. Again, the reason I like using the Reiki energy for it, and also those precepts, the Reiki principles. Just for today, I will not be angry or worried. Just for today, I'll be filled with gratitude, devoted to my work, and kind. And so those can also shift us into that the frequency of those higher levels of consciousness. The energy itself actually helps us shift because we have the energy, it's life force. We have it within us. So the physical practices that we do, whether they're mental or whether we're physically drawing them or physically making them happen, the energy is there, and we're finding ways to connect to it in our perception, like in our daily life. Yeah. So go ahead, Caroline.
This is related to what Em was asking about feeling that lady's feelings when she was in the basement of the temple. So even if we do have that filter of Reiki around us, does that mean that we don't feel those feelings? Because sometimes that's important information.
I think that, yes, you can still feel the feelings. And yes, you can still have things happen that, energetic things happen, connections, that type of thing. If you really also go into what Em was talking about, she had pretty immediate guidance. And so that was the other piece of it, because it doesn't change life from happening. Life is, and particularly with Reiki energy, opening up those listening centers where you're listening and hearing at different levels than just sound. You're hearing telepathically and psychically as well. Often the Reiki energy does that. So yes, life still happens. It's actually, as Taylor said in the chat, Reiki puts us in theta and gamma brainwaves in waking time. So it elevates our consciousness to those higher levels of life force and then moves us into that guidance. Because you're right, a lot of times we do need to hear it. And, we don't want everything filtered out and, that you're not hearing your guidance either.
When I heard the lady with the conch shell, I could hear her joy and it made me laugh.
I'd say a big piece of it is it really can help with your discernment. So it can diffuse it as well, but that discernment piece, okay, is this mine? Is this yours? How can I, proceed through this? As Em was saying, realizing in real time that there was guidance around it, that there was discernment around it. Also, when you're an empath, that piece of knowing this isn't mine can be really helpful. Also, if you need to have that information, if it is important to have that information, if it's not yours, that's important too, that, or if you're called to do something with it or do something about it, that's important information as well, knowing that it's not yours, but yet at the same time, it's still, you still, have to have guidance around it. So the discernment piece is a really important piece to it. And when you're empathic, that is a very important piece to it. Whether you are guided to let it go, whether you're guided to be like, okay, that's not mine, I can just let it go, or whether you're guided to, I don't want to say like not let it go, because you don't want to like absorb it, but if you're guided to, help, or there's some sort of guidance for you to be involved with it in some way, shape, or form, that's where it can really help with that piece of it. But even if you are guided to help in some way, shape, or form, still knowing that it's not yours releases the attachment to it. And that is very helpful for empaths. That's very helpful also to see the situation more clearly. So if you, then you can go into the idea of, do I just need to kind of listen? Do I need to try to fix this? Most of the time you can't fix it, but when you try to go into that fixing mode, is there, help that is needed? So all of those pieces, that in that discernment, that can be a really helpful piece to all of it. Well, Joe, I think you are up next.
Everybody. Hi, yeah, Colleen, I had brought this up and you told me this would be a good thing for the Q&A about the second heaven, talking about that a little more in detail and what really happens there. I was kind of interested from the literature that I have from the ICRT. It's I get the gist that there are both sort of advanced souls there, sort of advanced, but not totally in dropped ego consciousness yet. And then there's others who only have a high school degree in spirituality, and they're not quite up with some of them yet. And I'm so interested in the invocation. You often use the terminology. You're here right now today in your soul's journey in the first heaven, which I always find that you somehow incorporate in every invocation. So my question is basically, obviously, my views on spirituality are very different now from when I was perusing the Barnes & Noble shelf in the 80s with the Shirley MacLaine books. I have a different relationship now in the autumn of my life with the whole thing. So the deal is what I'm trying to figure out is, given that our existence is a constant growth process, do souls in the second heaven advance? Do they advance by being in contact with more advanced souls there, since they're not on the earth plane anymore? And my second question is from the third heaven and up, does the personality of what we are eventually just dissolve? And those are my two questions.
Well, let's see. That's a whole big subject. So first of all, for those of you that are not familiar with the 12 heaven concepts, it's a concept that we teach in Holy Fire Reiki training and experiencing those levels of consciousness. And the levels of consciousness is something that is within each of us. We have all those levels of consciousness within us. How do we access them? And Reiki energy helps us access our higher levels of consciousness. And then they also exist around us. It's part of creation. It's part of the earth, the spirit of the earth, the divinity of the earth has everything, all the way through these, incredible levels of consciousness. And then I also think of them as kind of in the spiritual realms of 12 heavens, like I can access them. And really, they're probably all one. So, but in how my mind wraps around it, it's around me, within me, beyond me, and I'm experiencing the practices, Reiki energy that gives me access to them. These concepts are a way that we are defining it in this system, but not that it's exclusive to this system, exclusive to Reiki or Holy Fire. It's a way of defining some spiritual realms and the levels and frequencies and energies of them. And so it also isn't to replace anybody else's current belief system about heaven, however that works. So this is really giving us a method we can communicate about so we all know what we're talking about. So the first thing is that we use Reiki energy to connect into these levels of consciousness. And the Reiki energy comes from the higher levels of it, so third heaven and above. So the concept of the first heaven is that the first heaven is this realm that we live in. It's a physical realm. It's also non-physical, seen and unseen. There are higher and lower frequencies of consciousness, behaviors, living on the first heaven. And so we think of it as a dual realm. It has higher and lower frequencies. And in humanity, of course, we see that there are those that are consciously elevating to higher levels of consciousness, behaviors, actions, living, thriving, sharing, communicating, resourcefulness. And there are those that are in the lower levels of behaviors, consciousness, etc. And so we have the choice here. Where are we going to be with that? And it is the one choice we always have in our own mind. Where are we going to go? And for me, again, I always talk about the how-to. How do I get there? How do I get to the higher levels of consciousness in my daily life? So Reiki energy then coming from higher than first or second heaven is always going to be coming in at those higher frequencies and in training me to them. It'll lift me to them. So the second heaven is considered to be a spiritual realm like the first heaven, like the earth realm. It's the non-physical realms. So when we say spiritual, that just simply means it's non-physical. And it is a dual realm and also has beings of higher frequencies and who are absolutely contributing to all the realms through, first heaven, second heaven, the beings of consciousness there, continuing to contribute wellness on all levels for all things and all life here. When I say all life, I mean the planet too, because it is all life. And so there are beings there that are very advanced consciousness, higher consciousness, and there are beings that are lower consciousness. And so one of the skills in working with spiritual guides is having an understanding of who you're working with and what is their level of consciousness. And do you want to work with them? So there are second heaven beings that people absolutely work with in their energy work that, they are absolutely here to contribute wellness and to share in the higher well-being of life and the planet. And then the third heaven, the concept of it is that the third heaven and beyond, that the third heaven is a non-dual realm. So it only has higher consciousness. The beings there are only coming from higher levels of consciousness. And that's where Reiki energy comes and also aware that the 3rd through the 12th heavens are all enlightened realms. They're all non-dual realms. They only have higher frequencies. We think of it as hierarchical because we think of the numbers as going up, but they're equally horizontal. It's not hierarchical. It's just different levels of consciousness and awareness. Everybody is going to experience them uniquely. They're, going to be an internal connection with it. Also, for those of you wondering, you can go your entire Reiki career and never investigate the 12 heavens unless it interests you. Also, they've shown us there are more than 12 heavens, but said just start with 12. So when you're understanding about working with spiritual guides and energy medicines, spiritual energy practices, is really understanding the energy that you're working with. What is its nature? How do they do their work with you? How do you access them? How do you receive what they offer? And how do you deliver it? So the first step is, what is the energy of it? Do you want to be working with that energy? Is it the highest frequency of energy that you can work with? And a lot of times they come in from, the different, just like we can have people of higher consciousness come in to our experience in the first heaven that can bring guidance, can bring help, can bring wellness, can bring thriving in all of the realms that exist. So one of the reasons that I like working with Reiki energy and teaching Reiki energy is the attunement is what connects you directly to the energy. So you're always working with that higher frequency and above. You can use that energy, the higher frequencies and above, to operate in all the different levels, first, second, third, and beyond. So I'm always working with the Reiki energy in this first heaven, second heaven awareness, third heaven. As far as do we lose personality as we go into those levels of consciousness? I would say yes. And then also we have our innate human spirit that is always present in those levels of consciousness. So our human spirit has its own personality, awareness, consciousness. And so in my experience of it, I would say I have not achieved enlightenment. And so in my experience of it, I still have a good level of self-awareness as me, as a human being, when I am working with them. But I also have the awareness of the higher levels of consciousness as part of my human spirit. And that I'm here, you asked about the soul's history. I'm here to be human at this time in my soul's journey. My soul has a journey, and my belief is that it's infinite with lots of different experiences. And so this is one of them. And so I want to be present in it. And I believe that this Reiki energy is helping us to be aware of all the parts of us, as well as our human consciousness, our human beingness, our personalities, as part of our divine spirit and soul's expression at this moment. And so Reiki energy is what helps me get there. I still have my human experiences. I still have my dual consciousness. I also have an energy that aligns me and takes me into, perceptions that I prefer to be in, because I like being in, clear thought. Although sometimes people wonder, because I don't always appear that way to everybody else, but to me, I'm in clear thought, and how, I use Reiki as a life management tool. So, it's a big subject, Joe. And, we did a meditation. I wrote an article in the spring 2023 edition of the Reiki News magazine. And the title of it is Reiki Journey to Explore the 12 Heavens. And in it, and then we did a meditation on it too. And in that, I'm not telling you my experience of the heavens. The article is about how you use Reiki to experience them yourself. And so, I can share everything I just did with you. It's also going to be for you to kind of, ask Reiki that question and, listen around it and let it teach you what it's about for you from your perspective.
Do you think all of us who are in the first heaven, all of us do go to the second heaven? Or is it possible to bypass and when you pass and go right to the third?
Oh, after we die? I don't know if I know that like definitively to say, oh, here's what happens. I do quite a bit of mediumship, and where I've worked with souls from everything from haven't crossed over but are not attached, what we call discarnate souls, to souls that have attached, spirits that have attached to people. And then all the way to those in all the different levels of heavens. I would say the majority of time, unless I'm specifically working with a discarnate spirit, most of the loved ones that I find at least in third heaven and above. Yeah, it's different though than saying, so for instance, I can meet my mother and I know she's in those levels, but I don't think of her as a spirit guide that would do my work for me. But I am also in relationship with her and able to connect in with her. And I have some other family members whose the people want to consistently connect with their family member. Now, saying that, some of them have gone out beyond where they hang out with us here. Some of them have gone up into those higher levels of consciousness, and it takes a lot for them to come back this way. So I've seen it at all different levels. And then I've seen some of them, where they just go, their spirit now is going on to their experiences of, the infinite realms. And again, I don't know. I only have my own vision of it. I don't want to claim to be an expert in it. I just have my own experience of it. And I've done quite a bit of this work over the years. So I'm very comfortable with how I experience it. But at the same time, it's through my own experiences with Reiki.
Were you just making an allusion to the formless realm, sort of?
Yeah,
as well.
Some of them, head into the formless realms, or even kind of before the formless realms, where there's still some form, but because the higher you go, you definitely you move into your pure ego. So you move into the place where your human spirit is in its purity, and also able to completely be unified with your divine nature and your divine spirit with your human nature, and and human spirit. So that's, though, I think of that while we're alive. And then after we pass, I think it can be all of the above. One of the ones where I really had an experience of it was actually Robyn's dogs. She had two dogs that passed relatively close to one another. They both got age, they got them both around the same age as puppies. So anyway, one of the dogs, it was very easy to connect in with her in her dog form, in her personality, in how we knew her here. Well, then the other dog, Thomas, when Robyn and I were doing work for Robyn, and the grief around both her dogs passing in such a relatively short time, and Thomas wasn't as present physically as Davina, where she was just like herself. So when we were working with him, it showed that he had already kind of gone way out beyond his form as we knew him, and had moved into another level of, his dog consciousness, however that works. Again, not an expert in it, but, just what I've experienced with the animals. So I think it's at all different levels, Joe. And yes, do I think that throughout all of it, there are spiritual beings assisting to help us. And I have seen that with discarnate spirits or spirit attachments, where they have spirit guides trying to help them. They definitely have. We have continual sources of love trying to support us and help us through all of our levels of our journey. That the system is definitely set up where that power of love is here. And again, what we're doing and talking about here is, how do we connect to it? How do we engage with it? And how, for me, most of all, how is it useful in my daily life? How does it help me have clarity of thought, clarity of priorities, clarity of resourcefulness, all of those things, peace? As we started this conversation with Caroline and Em, the peace that we experience and the energy of being on Mount Karama is so palpable. So again, how do we get there? And the Reiki energy helps us do that and perceive it. Yeah. So Robyn, do you want to add to any of that? That's a whole big subject about what we actually teach this class, the 12 heavens of explore the 12 heavens.
Yeah, how I've experienced it is, one of the things that I've experienced is that and this is kind of, it's not directly your question, Joe. So I know that this is a little kind of a pathway that way. But one of the things that I have experienced is when I've experienced family members that have gone to the second heaven, and they are doing work there, as they are, maybe in this lifetime, they had a lot of self-forgiveness to work through. Not that they are a lower frequency being, but maybe believe that they don't necessarily deserve to go into the light, and go into those like enlightened realms, where most family members, I feel, or a lot of family members, even if they have self-forgiveness work to do, they go kind of directly into the light. So there is that piece of it, even if they are working with kind of those ascended masters or the light to move past things that may have happened in this lifetime. But I have experienced a couple of times where they've been kind of in the dual, they kind of have stayed in the dual realms. And actually, as a practitioner, there is a piece of the session when it comes through the session, or even in my own ancestral work, because I've seen that in some of the ancestral work as well, that a lot of the piece of it was set up, divinely guided, to have the light come in and help them to kind of ascend to a different place with it, whether it's the ascended masters, whether it's the light, however kind of their belief system works around that, it comes in to assist in that process. Also seen that with a lot of spirit attachments and spirit attachment work, that the whole process was kind of divinely guided to also help that spirit attachment ascend into the non-dual realms, so that it wasn't a part of that lower frequencies anymore. There's only been like maybe a couple of times, less than a handful of times, where they haven't ascended into the light to go into those non-dual realms. It's the majority of the time. It has been that they are a part of why it was all called to going through the Reiki energy, was so that they could move past where they were kind of stuck, to go into the light, to shift where they have been. I don't ever really ask for how long or anything like that, but they shift where they have been and are wanting to do that work. So there's only been a couple of times where I don't really know what happens, because I don't follow that trail. I just ask my kind of guides and the Reiki energy to come in and just release it from that person. But like I said, it's 95% of the time they're ascending into the light. And that might have been, their purpose in kind of the lifetime of not the human's lifetime, but the spirit's purpose of being able to shift out of that. I've also seen in like the second heaven work that there are the enlightened guides that choose to stay there. And it's not for me to know for how long. Time and space are weird, but they want to stay in that place for different reasons, that they have different reasons to be in there, in that duality. And again, I don't really follow those trails of the lower frequency beings that I've seen that with, that kind of very small amount that I've seen that with. But I will follow that trail sometimes with the higher frequency. They're kind of enlightened, but still in personality, still in the duality. And why they have chosen that. And a lot of it is because they are there to help be a filter between these enlightened realms and the earthly realms, helping humanity to be able to, achieve those state of consciousness, achieve that remembering within them that we are all that divine light within. So there's just a variety. And as Colleen said, I don't necessarily think that this is the one right way or anything like that. It's just what I've experienced in my sessions around it, in addition to what, kind of Colleen has said.
You were right on point to the question I asked. It wasn't a sidetrack at all, Robyn. It was right on point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kaz. Is this kind of around this subject?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Why would the energy on the mountain be different from the energy Alaska, Portland, New York? What? When I went to Alaska, I was like, oh my gosh! It was like I felt God. That was the only thought that I had, but that was way before Reiki and energy. The only energy I knew was radio frequencies, if that. But why would it be What makes it different?
It's a great question. I think that there's landscapes from like a physical standpoint. There's landscapes that can create a different energy. That if you think about the energy in New York City versus the energy in Alaska, you're talking about a city energy. It is a completely human habitat, right? Because it's the energy of the movement of the city and people living and going to and from work. It's a faster paced city. I know there's places in it that aren't, but it's a faster paced city because it's a big city and it's a hub of a lot of the human habitat things around the world. And I'm not saying it's the hub, I'm saying it's a hub of humanity, right? And there's multiple hubs around the world that contribute to a lot of the kind of pieces of human living. And then you go to Alaska and there's the energy of the mountains, or dependent on where you are in Alaska, it could be the energy of the ocean. It could be, the energy of the kind of tundra, depends on, I guess, where you're at. That there's different pieces. There's habitat of wildlife. It's a smaller town. It's more rural. And when you go into smaller places, when you go into more rural landscapes, there are different energies around that. Things do move a bit slower. They do, I live outside of Portland, and I know Portland is different than like New York as far as the energy is concerned. It's a smaller city, less history from a city standpoint. There's incredible long-standing history if you're talking about the indigenous peoples, but there's less history as a city, and so it is going to have a different energy than New York. But you come out to where I live and it's a slower energy. It's a much different energy because of what the people there have contributed to it. But then we do also have more open space here. We have more animal life here. We have that all contributes. We have more plants, we have pastures, and trees and forests and rivers than they do in the city. Mountains. Yeah, we have mountain energy here as well. So,
I have possum here.
Yeah, I'm not, and raccoons. I'm not saying that, I'm not making it hierarchical. I'm just saying that there's a difference between them. And so there's a difference between where I live and where you go to Alaska, where they have more open space. So that's just from a human perspective of it. But then you have the and what all of the collective humanity brings to it, like our energy, our own Schumann resonance that brings into a space, the type of people that it attracts. I could never live in New York. It's not that it's a better than. I'm not tough enough. I'm not fast paced enough. I lived in a bigger city in Southern California, and frankly, I need a slower pace of life. I need a little bit more wide open space. And so there's just that piece that different places have that, also either attract a certain type of people, or you have to also kind of have a certain type of personality or raised there. It's different when you're raised there. And so that's just a difference of like the Schumann resonance of the people that live there. When we have this building of energy over time, it creates an energy there. But then you also have the energy of the natural landscape, which can be different. So you can go to the mountain here that I live at the base of, and that has a different energy than Mount St. Helens, right? So each of these different places, because the earth has her own Schumann resonance in the different places. And so they vibrate at different frequencies. They have, its it's a mother. It has its own energy in different ways because it has its own energy. It's the different names that you could call Gaia, Pachamama. I know the Hawaiian word for it isn't coming to me, but all of these different names that that have been attributed to her because she's a living, breathing thing. She's a living, breathing spirit.
What is that Schumann thing you're talking about?
The Schumann resonance is just the resonance, that the frequencies that we all contain, the earth contains. Our heart gives off a Schumann resonance, life gives off a Schumann resonance, and it has different frequencies dependent on what it is. So the earth is going to give a Schumann resonance that's different than the human heart gives. It's going to all be different. So there's a lot of information about that. The sun, there's a lot. Google it.
How can I mean, I'm like on ground level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not in the I'm level to the backyard. How do I bring like this? I mean, I only got like 2.5 rooms or something. How do I bring the frequency up here?
Reiki. Yeah.
Really?
Reiki. Yeah, it's an enlightened energy. You entrain to the Reiki energy. I mean, I know you've experienced that when you've been in class and things like that, where you entrain to the enlightened energy. So by putting the Reiki energy, the enlightened energy in the space, it naturally lifts the space. It naturally entrains the energy and the frequency of the space to the higher. And that's actually even a scientific thing that that the lower frequencies entrain to the higher frequencies. And so if you're filling the space consistently with energy, and even, maybe the entire building, the areas that you live, you can bring Reiki energy into that. A great tool for that is Reiki trails, where you're leaving Reiki energy through the bottoms of your feet throughout the entire space. Maybe even your commute when you walk to the store, or you go to your different places. You can put Reiki trails all around. You can send Reiki. You can use your Reiki grid. There's all different ways that you can fill the space with energy, and that helps the whole space entrain. And you'll see that. You see it over time. Also, the Reiki energy helps clear the space of lower frequency energy, that denser energy.
See, I'm not doing my home. I'm not doing the right. I'm like being, I gotta get out of this, decompressing job thing. I gotta like really, really I gotta do my real homework.
Don't should yourself, Kaz. Don't should yourself. You can do it on the fly. You can say Reiki on in the bottoms of your feet when you're going to the different.
What about the phone?
Yeah, you can do it in your phone. All of those things. Yeah, you can just say Reiki on, Reiki to the walls. Just by doing Reiki, you're entraining the space. You see that in my house. It's definitely entrains the space of my house and the people around me through the Reiki energy. So, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that, but that is one of the big benefits of Reiki energy, is that you can utilize it for those things.
I think I always had this thing growing up that they always say, well, ask your angels for help, and I'm like, why do I gotta bother these people? So
you're not bothering them. That's the thing, is that they're infinite. They don't. You asking for energy or asking for love and light, and all of us, there's 28 of us here, asking for love and light literally has no effect on their life force, because they're infinite beings of the light.
Yes, exactly.
There's 7 billion people on the planet, and if we all asked one angel for a little bit of light and love, they could send it to all 7 billion people and not even feel that. So
Reiki energy is the same.
Exactly.
I'm like,
it's infinite.
Maybe I'm supposed to be bothering these help out here over here.
Yeah.
Come over here to Brooklyn.
Do it your way.
Yeah. It's what
Do it your way.
it's part of what we're here for in this time frame, is that we're in a place where we get to explore that. Before, it was a finite, we were told it was a finite resource, and it's not. It's infinite. And we're here remembering that in this time frame, and helping to bring back that internal ancient wisdom and knowledge that we all get to be in that space and be in that energy that is, it's infinite. So, and Reiki is the same. It's infinite. You can't even, it's impossible to make a dent in it, by asking for help. It's impossible.
Wow.
And Kaz, the other thing is that Reiki assists you in the cycles that you are in. You would be decompressing having just retired. It takes time in our.
I'm still having these stupid dreams.
Yeah.
I hardly ever had a dream about driving, teaching, driving, or when I was working. But now I'm like, oh, what am I doing in this car? I don't, maybe then, like when I do remember it, I'm like, you're leaving it, you're letting it go. And like, I have to tell myself, it's like, it's going. I literally changed my phone number so the driving instructors don't call me on a lesson that I hear all their pick a left. No, you gotta want that. Oh God. So okay.
These are the things that you use Reiki energy for, and allowing yourself to use it however you can in the moment, without that, as Robyn said, not shoulding on yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that we so often think is that, we have to follow through with practices and rituals and everything in order for it to assist us. And it will assist you in any cycle of life that you are in. Sometimes you're in the cycles where you get to do the long rituals and disciplines and practices, and other times you're just living your daily life and you need it to adapt to you. And that's what you describe right now, is that
I'm limiting
you are
it
in this cycle, and let it help you where you're at, without the expectation that if you don't do it right, it's not there for you.
I never do it right.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's how come I know it works that way, because the same here.
Yeah, what I'm thinking now is, with all this information, thank you, Colleen and Robyn, that I'm limiting the Reiki. I'm putting limits on it. And I don't have to.
That's a good way to think about that.
Yeah.
It is unlimited.
Healing our old beliefs around that.
Holy fire, baby.
Yeah, healing the belief that it has to be.
Oh, I know holy fire works. I use it every single day, every night, twice, sometimes a night. Because I know I have to get rid of, like all this other stuff that was behind me. All this stuff was way, way, way behind me, And I see, sometimes wait a minute, where'd that come from, And it may not have been from this life.
Yeah.
Well, every time we have major life cycle changes, the adjustment is one of the more difficult parts of it, going from one cycle into the next.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you might be sometimes in that in between, that there's a feeling of being in limbo. Like,
yeah,
I don't know where to go next. And
right.
It's I think more difficult than when you know where to go, even if you're in challenge, what you're doing, but that transition time in life cycles that are this big, it just takes time. And so the more you can, I just realized this whole time I've had the wrong glasses on. No wonder things are.
Oh, there you are.
Well, now I can see. It's like things are so much more clear now. So those life cycles, and when you're in the in-between, the interim between them, it's, time to give yourself time.
Yeah, it's a really weird place I'm in. And then my cousin passed, and now I got, my other friend in Connecticut, and she's all fighting with the blood and the chemo. And I'm like, damn, girl, you better stay here. I can't stay here.
And Kaz, Joe said, fellow New Yorker, said there are special angels assigned to Brooklyn. So there you go.
Oh, wasn't that the Dodgers?
And Danny, I like what you just said.
Yeah, I got to write this down. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your help. Makes it, yeah.
So Danny in the chat said, if you were building a house, would you do it yourself or receive the assistance from others? Same. Ask, receive, and accept.
I don't know. That's, yeah. But yeah, okay. My friend built her house. She did half of it. I did a little bit of it, and everybody, yeah, okay. So I'm like building my house, me. Rebuilding, oh my gosh, I got so much work to do. And I don't get paid for it. All right, yeah.
You get paid in infinite wisdom.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, yeah, can't beat that. All right.
All right.
Great. Thanks so much.
Well, we do have one more question. The person emailed it, but then had to leave. So I wanted to ask this question for them because they were here, but then had to leave. So when I was explaining how the Reiki comes directly to the recipient in holy fire, but in Usui Tibetan, it's through the Reiki master or Reiki teacher, I was asked, why would I come to you for holy fire then? Why doesn't it just directly come to me? And why would I, basically, I think the question is, it's like, why would I need a teacher or a practitioner? So how do I explain this besides it's for all of the techniques and information? Do you have a better explanation?
So what this question is about is the holy fire attunement technique is different now than the hands-on attunement techniques that we used with Usui Tibetan Reiki. So in the previous technique, I'll call it hands-on technique, the energy of Reiki travels through the Reiki master, flows through the heart, out the arms, and out the hands to the student who is receiving the attunement. And so that is accomplished through a series of hands-on practices and a 4-part ritual, really, initiation ceremony, however you want to define that. And so the holy fire placements and ignitions, those are the names of the attunement style or the attunement technique that gives you Reiki energy, creates that attunement to the energy. The attunement is different in that the energy no longer travels through me to you, and I transfer it to you. Now the energy doesn't come through me at all. It actually travels directly to the students. So I know that I think you understand that by the way you worded the question. However, all the listeners, to give you guys the context of the differences in the attunement techniques. There are many attunement techniques. There are many ways that people pass on Reiki 2 from one person to the next, which is what is called an attunement. Usui Sensei himself used different techniques. Dr. Hayashi and Usui developed a particular hands-on technique. How Mrs. Takata did that was different than Usui, and then also it was different even through many of the different lineages of Reiki that developed over the last century. And so the techniques can be slightly different. So the holy fire ignitions and placements where the energy is going directly to the student, the question is, well, why does the student even need to come and have an attunement? So I've asked that question of the energy itself, like, well, then why do we need to have a class? Why do we need to have somebody else help us, help facilitate that for us? And it said as simply as belief, that it has been, for most people, the belief in our ability to have a direct connection has been suppressed for so many generations. It's now a cellular belief that we need that external technique, that physical practice to be able to connect. So as we know, many people do work with energies that are laying on of hands, that are healers, that are doing work without having even had a teacher. From my own experience of having asked that question and then considerable levels of training with a variety of teachers, both in shamanism and in Reiki, and having taught both styles with the hands-on attunements and multiple techniques of those, depending on the lineage that I was teaching at the time. And then the practices of the attunement techniques, the ignitions and placements in Holy Fire Reiki, and that direct connection. And so in my experience teaching it, both methods work. They're both, as far as does the attunement work for each method. The attunement style with Holy Fire, what it also showed me in addition to belief, is that is part of what it is trying to teach us, is that it is easier, and we already have a direct connection and we can make that, but it's actually healing that cellular memory that we need some other way of that connection happening, done for us or with us, or we've worked really hard to make it happen, that kind of thing. Lots of different ways that we believe around it. So it's trying to help us heal that belief. So there's, in addition, as Robyn was saying, the Reiki training classes that we have, whether it's Holy Fire, Usui, Tibetan, Rainbow Reiki, or any of the other lineages, part of it is the training too. So we have the attunement method that is, giving us that connection to the Reiki energy. But then you have the tools and techniques of the how to connect, how to make that connection, how to receive the energy, and how to deliver it. And so again, the same thing, it's because we are physical beings, and at this time in our cultural evolution where we are right now, as far as I know, in my cultural experience, is that we need the physical tools, we need the physical techniques. So the classes include the energy, but it also includes then how do you make the connection to the energy using tools and techniques. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that. There's a lot of different techniques out there. And so you might find different techniques. As far as people wanting to receive Usui Tibetan or any other lineage of Reiki training and Reiki energy through specific styles of attunements, all of that is going to flow through your own personal guidance. And I believe that people are guided to the methods, the techniques, the lineages that are, relatable to them, that are a match for them. And that's why there's so many, because there are many right ways to do it and right ways that work, but there is also your way. And so you'll be guided to the ones that, you'll hear it like, oh, I think I want to go do that. Or it'll be a persistent, that inner nudge that can guide you to, what is your way that is the most, relatable to you.
Well, also it does have the techniques and information, which are very helpful. So
Yeah.
just add that, because that was in part of the question, that is a really big piece of it. Because, just getting the energy for people is also a great thing. But if you want to practice in any sort of way, having the tools and techniques are super helpful. So, so there's that piece of it as well, which was a part of the question.
Well, when I first received Reiki, I really didn't get a lot of the training that went with it. And that's what led me to more training and led me then to take Reiki with William Rand back in 2003. But I had been working with Reiki for 3 years prior to that. And so kind of had to navigate my way in figuring some of it out. And then once I had a more structured training and system to work within, it actually made it all easier, because I could just work with it, use the techniques that are tried and true. People have been using them for a long time. And then also one of the reasons I happen to like this lineage with the ICRT, or International Center for Reiki Training, is because it gives you the tools and techniques, and then also opens it for you to find your ways that make sense to you too.
Right. Well, we have another question.
Okay.
So I've been diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety. I am a level 2 Reiki. What am I doing wrong? I thought I would be able to stop the flashbacks and anxiety that goes with it. So with this, I would say that Reiki is a complementary therapy, that many times Reiki helps to enhance your other forms of medical assistance, whether that is therapy, whether that is Western medicine, whether that's holistic medicine. It can help to enhance it. I do think that there can be this kind of misconception that by receiving Reiki, automatically it just fixes our entire life, and fixes all of the things that we may have going on for us. Anything that may be a physical, emotional, or spiritual part of being human, for a variety of different reasons, that those can be here in our life, such as anything that maybe happened in our childhood, maybe anything that we, have a medical condition. There's all sorts of things that can be a part of what makes us up. And there are times where it does automatically, heal it. There's miracles that are out there, but I would say the majority of the time, it's actually a little bit of a longer process that over time, it leads you to wellness. It helps you to find the paths for you in that. It can acutely help to reduce your stress. That is one of the things that it can do. And so using the tools using the Reiki tools that you have during those really those complex times can definitely help, but it doesn't necessarily fix it in that moment. And certainly with those kinds of diagnoses, those are also going to be where you would use additional tools to help you with that. I know, obviously it's a different set of diagnoses, but being somebody who has been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and even being, on medication with it in the past, Reiki didn't solve it for me immediately. It took time, and it took, the things that I needed to do to lead me into a path of wellness. And Reiki helped to discover what those were. It helped me lead me there. But there was also other things that I needed to do in order to do that. And that is another piece that Reiki can help with. It's another piece that Reiki can also help you to help, it's not enlighten them. What's the word I'm looking for? It can help you to illuminate those solutions that may come in for you because you are asking the Reiki energy and intending for that to happen. But it is certainly not always going to fix things overnight. And I think that a lot of people actually experience that in kind of the same way that this question came in. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. I think that there's a little bit of that idea that Reiki just fixes all of it immediately. And that can be presented, or that maybe we assume because it does help people on a path to wellness that we think that there's something wrong with us when it isn't this overnight miracle. But I know that I set out the intention to have Reiki help me with my anxiety. And it took years and years and years. And it also wasn't just Reiki. Reiki helped me to find that, there are certain things in my life that are causing me to have physical anxiety. There are certain things that are emotional triggers. And Reiki helped me to discover what those were and then work with them through Reiki, but also other means, such as therapy, such as, working with doctors, such as medication, which luckily I don't have to be on anymore, but it helped me in those times where I was really, really struggling with it. So I would say that to ask the Reiki energy also to help you with the adjustment of those expectations, and to help you with the healing of that. It's like your fault that it didn't heal it overnight. It's not. It's just it helps over time to lead you in that direction, and it also helps to enhance some of the things that you may need to work with within the other systems. Because, like, I know when I've been in, therapy, things like that, if I activate the Reiki energy before I go into that, or I work with Reiki energy in addition to it, it helped me, I should say. I shouldn't say it helps. It helped me. This is my own perspective. It helped me move through those in a different way than it did before the Reiki energy helping me with that. But Colleen, I'm sure you have things to add to that.
Well, I think what I would just add is that Reiki does accelerate your healing and your empowerment. And one of the ways that it really works is through empowering you in your gifts, your talents. And when I say that, that's kind of my euphemism for the big picture of being in a more thriving place. As Robyn said, in most of our experience, there's time we do see sometimes people have amazing change and transformation. And so that can happen. At the same time, the energy empowers you to, like she said, find the resources that are going to help you, the solutions that puts you into a different level of energy that empowers you and helps your mind also move more and more into that wellness. And your cellular memory, we call this some of what you describe as culturally created self. And that's life experiences have a cellular memory in you. You also have, through epigenetics, the cellular memory of your innate wisdom, your inner truth, your whole self. And Reiki does continue to reveal that to you. And so it does that through that inner voice. And sometimes it's those really small steps. Sometimes it's like a bunch of steps at a time. And it will heal the areas, it works to heal the areas of the injury and the wounds themselves. At the same time, it also focuses on revealing and empowering who you really are without those wounds. And so it is a practice. And again, sometimes it can accelerate and move quickly. And other times, where it can be spontaneous. And then other times it's a process. As a practitioner and a teacher, I never know which it's going to be. Like, I can't predict the energy in any way and how that will work with an individual. And that's why we are always careful to present it as a complementary therapy. I have absolutely had miracles happen in my hands. And I have also had people pass away in my hands, and it didn't cure, didn't present a cure for them. But there's always healing of some sort, and it does empower you. And so let yourself use it in whatever way is easiest for you, and make it simple so that it's easy for you to use that energy. One of the things that I talked about at length actually with M was that awareness of putting that field of energy around you. And we were talking about it in this case as, something for those external frequencies, but it also allows you to be in that field with safety and with an energy that's there. It's not separate from you, with an energy that's there to continually support you. And so the how-to of creating that field around you is either through thinking it. You can imagine I'm inviting Reiki energy to be around me. You can physically draw the symbols and place it around you. And that can be helpful when you have your space really filled too, because part of what can happen with some of these things is, just really empowering that space so the energy is always there supporting you, helping you. And you don't have to do everything to connect to it. You can just let it be present. You just say yes to it. Let the energy come in and support you in in your journey and in your process.
I remember. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
Colleen.
Well, it's always one of those things that, it's when we can look back at things in retrospect.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, it's like
thing.
we understand it, but
Yeah.
when you're in the process and it's every day, it can be a lot. And
Yeah.
so another answer is do exactly what you did, is find community, and where there is support and community that way too. And so I'm saying that, you also showed up here. And so, this is community, and, knowing you can tap into the energy of this circle always. It's always there.
Yeah. I was going to say almost the exact same thing, that if you look at potentially what Reiki guided you to do, is guided you to ask this question, guided you here. We also have like a distance Reiki share that's free on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 a.m. There's YouTube resources that can help. We have YouTube resources that can help. And knowing that we talk about these subjects, knowing that there was somebody in the chat that mentioned that they are I love the way that you said that, being a PTSD human being. And also that she adds emotional freedom technique, EFT, to her work. But that you have other people that have this experience in this community, people that have helped themselves through Reiki, other modalities, combining it with Western like medicine type solutions, that you can talk about it and be heard in these communities, and that you have compassion and love in these communities that can help. And right there is potentially an example of what Reiki can lead you to on your path to more wellness. And as Colleen said, sometimes it's subtle and we don't attribute it to Reiki. And then in retrospect, we can look back and be like, oh, this is where this path led me to, just by that energy, helping my body, helping my frequency, releasing some of that fight or flight response, just even in the moment, so that I can maybe think a little bit clearer. But I didn't realize that, reaching out to ask this question and having the community support around this question was where that was going to lead me, or even that might have been helpful. So there's that. And I do remember being in that space where you're like, I just want this physical feeling to leave. I just want these thoughts, just don't want these circular thoughts anymore. And I remember asking myself that over or saying that over and over and over again. And somewhere along the line, I realized like, this was also an intention that I was setting when I was in these spaces. So it was when I was in my Reiki energy, when I was in my Reiki work, that I would say those, and realizing somewhere along the line that this was an intention that I was setting in those moments and in those spaces. And it took time, but now I'm in the place, and everybody is different. So I don't want to say that everybody is going to always be in this space. It can sometimes take a lot of ongoing work. And I know people that are doing that work, and I have clients that are doing that work, and they combine the Reiki sessions with different types of therapy. They combine it with all different types of modalities that help them on their path. But I know for me, I know now that continually saying that, and then somewhere along the line, realizing that I am consciously setting an intention, and then going into, this is an intention that I'm setting, and continually setting that intention kind of over and over and over again. And now I'm rarely in that space. So I'm now able to notice when I'm in mind, that circular thought, that loop. I can notice when I'm in that physical feeling of anxiety, because I'm not in it all the time now. And that took time. I would say about, I'm 38, 39. 10, 15 years that it took. And I don't want to say that because like that can seem daunting.
It's
Like,
a
oh,
really
wow.
long time.
But it's been years since I've been in that place. It's been years, but I'm now in the place where I completely recognize that that is a big change for me. And, and so, yeah, that's a long time, but at the same time, like that was my path and that was my reality. And I'm also now okay with that. That's how it all unfolded. And I'd say I've been in this place now for maybe about 5 years or so. So maybe I would say a little less than 10, 15 years. But I remember setting that intention in my early 30s and being like, I want this to stop. And then there was a whole bunch of things that unfolded since then that have led me to this place that I'm now, that now I just don't really have that any longer. And very grateful for that.
So I want to add that there's a Reiki community that we are offering, but also people here in this community have offerings as well. So, and Danny has talked, in the chat, also remembering to get Reiki sessions from others. And that's another tool that, sometimes we just plain need that external assistance. And, even though I've been doing Reiki, I teach it and I do a lot of self-Reiki, I still have sessions from others. So that's another really important part.
Yeah. And finding communities like that. And I'm just mentioning ours. There's lots of others where you give and receive Reiki with each other. Yeah. So you're getting Reiki sessions with other people, even if, you need to have them in a free capacity, that is happening in those communities that do that, or a very, minimal rate for it. If some people charge for theirs, but it's usually not very much when you're doing that kind of share. So, and I have other people that have put in the chat, like it took a lot less time for me. So I just want to say that. So just so you know, but I also want to share that because that's been my path. And I'm not kind of embarrassed to say that it's been my path, and that is okay too. Like that piece is okay too, that there can be these different ways that it unfolds for everybody. But yeah, I got a couple of DMs that were like, yeah, mine was a lot quicker than that. So just want to say that. All right. But thank you also for sharing. And thank you for asking this question. And thank you for showing up, because that is honestly some of that's like the first step. And that's really brave and really courageous, because sometimes that first step is the hardest, and especially if you're new, that can take a lot of courage to send in a question, to be here, to, all of those things. So thank you for that too. All right, so we have time for one more question. Meg, you've had your hand raised for a while. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
I have two questions, and they're real quick. One, can I learn Karuna? Do I have to have it in person, or can I have it on Zoom?
You can have it on Zoom, and I teach it on Zoom. I have one upcoming in June. You have to have been a Reiki master for at least 6 months. And Reiki master is defined as having the Usui master symbol DKM. Okay,
because I have a master teacher of Usui and Holy Fire 1 and 2. Do I have to have Holy Fire 3 to learn World Peace?
Well, the Karuna class, it's either the World Peace is either in the master class or in the Karuna class. So you are qualified to take the Karuna master class, and you will receive the Holy Fire World Peace, Holy Fire 3 World Peace Reiki energy. And yes, that is online, and that then works for your master class your master energy and your Karuna master energy.
Okay, and with the ignitions on the Corona, is it the same thing as the holy fire?
Yes.
Okay,
Although you have an additional 8 symbols in the Karuna system.
okay, and it's 3 days, right? 3 days?
Yeah, it's a 3-day course and it's a master class. So when you receive the energy and the training, then you can also share it with others.
And then you can teach it too, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's all I got. I like to be quick.
Okay, thanks, Meg.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you, everybody who joined us and those who are listening or watching later. I did mention our free distance Reiki share. That's on 9:30 a.m. Pacific, that you are welcome to come. And we do usually a Reiki topic, Reiki talk about a Reiki subject, a guided meditation or journey, and like a Reiki guided meditation or journey. And then we go into breakout rooms to give and receive Reiki with each other. We always like it to be stress-free. So you're welcome to come for any part of it. If you show up late or have to leave early, all of that's okay. You do have to sign up for that list. That's at reikilifestyle.com to get the Zoom link for security purposes. And I want to say really quick to Kaz put in the chat that Karen Harrison and Carolyn Musial also have Reiki shares as well. So I want to say that. So if our time frame doesn't work for you, then and Kim, Gordon Cumbo, and there's lots of people. Taylor has one. Taylor Norris Reiki. So there's lots of communities. So if you can't make our time frame, definitely there's other resources on times and people that have great Reiki shares that you can attend.
Yeah, she says New Moon Reiki shares at taylornorrisreiki.com. And, that you can attend as many, so it's not one or the other. You can attend them all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, get a lot of community support. One of the things with Reiki is that the communities are really supportive and helpful with one another. So
abundance mentality for sure. I think so many of us just go
Reiki,
into it because
she said Reiki share hopping. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all, we just want everybody to, we want to love everybody and be loved in return, right?
Yeah.
So the more that we can all, enjoy all of this healing and beautiful community, the better. Also, we do have classes coming up. So Colleen is teaching Reiki 1 and 2 in Master in the beginning of May,
Next
correct?
week. Yeah.
Next week.
It'll be a couple of days after this. And I think I did Reiki Master first, then 1 and 2.
Okay.
So
that the 1 and 2 is on a weekend. And then we have you teaching Karuna in June. So you teach again Human Reiki in June and Karuna in June, and you teach Karuna only a few times a year. So if you're interested in Karuna, definitely check that out. And then Colleen and Sue Strong and I are teaching, we're 3 of the 4 authors of the ICRT Animal Reiki course. And we are teaching Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Animal Reiki Master in May as well. So you can go and check all of that out at reikilifestyle.com. And those are really fun classes as well. So, and it's more than just Reiki for animals. It's lots of Reiki for you. You get a symbol and another attunement to the animal Reiki energy. So definitely check out our website, also our social media. And I think that's good.
Our YouTube channel.
And our YouTube channel. Some of them are watching on YouTube, but if you're listening, you can go check out our YouTube channel. All right.
Sean said, I love to love and be loved.
Exactly.
So thank you. Love and peace to you too, Sean. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll just open this circle. Thank you all for listening and being a part of it. And enjoy your time on the mountain again today. Many blessings to everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.